What is up, everybody? This is Recap Rewind. I'm J-Lag.
And I'm NB.
And this episode is recapping and reviewing Riverdale Season 7, Episode 12. And it's called Chapter 129, After the Fall.
The fall or the fog?
Fall.
Fall. Okay.
Falling.
Don't forget, guys, stick around for the ending of the podcast. We're going to go through our recap roundups, our best moments, our best lines, and your guys' recap roundup. So be sure to stick around for that.
As always, to our continuing listeners and our brand new ones, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into this episode.
Let's do it.
What'd
you think?
You, girl, you. I thought it was good. Obviously, It was like it almost like defined itself by the end of it as a transitional episode.
Yeah.
But a lot still happened. Like, I think that we got a bit of things happening here and there, but I think there was also a lot of setup, like lots and lots of setup this episode. I'm really interested to see what happens with what happened this episode. Like, even with Reggie, with Clifford, we didn't get any answers really. Like, still a lot of question marks. So I think that like the lead up is coming. Like, there's a few moments in this episode that I'm excited to talk to you about that really made me start thinking about, okay, like the larger picture, like what is this, like at least in this world, like what does this all mean? And are we going to get to the end of this men versus the town storyline situation? And I feel like we're slowly getting somewhere with it. We got a few inklings of it this episode. I thought it was good. What'd you think?
I agree. Definitely like a middle episode where, like, again, not much like still things did happen, so I can't even complain about that. But I will say again, the writing was beyond anything I think that we've experienced prior to this season in Riverdale. Like, I don't know if they got a whole new writer's room, but the writing has been so beautiful. Like, even the whole Archie scene in the classroom, and then you get an amazing B&V moment, and we've been robbed of B&V for like a long time. It's just a great friend conversation, and like I just thought it was so beautiful, and I was so in the moment, and I was really trying to picture, even though we're in this alternate universe and this maybe is not going to apply in the end, I really wanted to believe that it will. I really wanted to believe that these two characters are really the same characters that we've been following for 6 years. Just because the stories were so rich and the conversations were so rich that I was like, this can't all be for nothing. Like, this has to mean something in the end. And so now I'm starting to shift a little bit into that of being like, I'm really hoping this is going to lead into something. And I think I'm slowly getting ready for that. But I am truly blown away at like what they write about in this show. And one of my favorite shows is Friday Night Lights. And I feel like it was such an underrated television show. And this episode felt so much like that. And I freaking loved it. I loved every second. All the, when Reggie and Archie are running out of the locker room and they touch that poster, like that is so Friday Night Lights. And like, if you watched it, you see those little things in it. And I'm like, I see you guys. And it works. The music was exactly Friday Night Lights. Like, they definitely like took it from that and
took a page from that.
Recreated it. And I thought, and I did appreciate it, and I loved it also. I am just impressed with what they're doing this season overall.
I really like it, and I think you're wearing your little River Vixen shirt. Like, it's a perfect time to wear it because
this week.
No, but it's very high school, right? And I think when I watched this episode, it felt I almost was filled with a bit of regret because I can recall those things being in that high school mind of like the innocence of it, because to your point, the writing is so well done, but because we've aged up, like we're even like we were out of high school by the time this show came out in the first place. Now we were like kids and married, you know what I mean? Like it's hard to like come back to the world that they've created for this final season. But I'm not saying it's impossible. Obviously, we feel that nostalgic vibe to it. Like you even said yourself, like they do it really, really well. That high school drama story.
And
like
it's not for nothing. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like dumb shit. Like, I'm gonna like go kiss him at the locker. Like, this is like meaningful conversations. Like the conversation that Reggie had with Archie, how he's like, I don't have dreams, I have plans. Like, I got like chills. I was like, holy shit. Like, that's a huge line for a high school student to say. And there's so much meaning behind that in terms of where he's come from, his background, his family. Like, they could have just done like a waistline for being in high
Yes.
school, but like they're giving them really profound things to talk about, and I love that they're not
Yeah, for
wasting
sure.
it, you know.
For sure, for sure. But let's get into the
Let's do
episode
it.
because yeah, it was a good one. It was a good one. So it starts off with Jughead narrating, and he's talking about Archie and Reggie. He kind of starts it off by saying like, "This is a story of two boys."
Yeah.
So I'm like kind of trying to figure out like where this is going because
I
the last episode
about where we ended off last
car
week.
accident. Yeah, exactly. So you're just like where like what's happening, but it shows kind of like their differences, like right from the top, like. You know, Archie's writing and doing his homework in his classroom, and Reggie's really focused on doing basketball. But then it really quickly cuts to the present time, which is the hospital scene.
Right.
And it turns out that Reggie basically saved everyone's ass. Like
How?
the Bulldogs were about to drown their asses in that car. Without him, they would have all died. But Julian is still in a coma.
Right.
And because of that, and for the frustration of like this scandal, Clifford Blossom, who's talking to Frank at this point, is basically saying it's Reggie's fault. He's the reason why this happened. He's off the team. I'm getting him out of here as soon as possible. And Frank, weirdly, like, you know, we've been off Frank for the beginning of the season. He's slowly starting to come around where he's not really like jumping on board being like, yeah, it's all Reggie's fault. He's like, actually, we don't really know all the information.
Right.
Like, we're still learning about it. Like, he kind of stands up for Reggie, which is a bit of a redeeming moment for him. And he's like, you know, like, why don't we just chill about the whole game situation and, you know, like removing him from the team, and let's like focus on the fact that your son is literally in a coma. Like, relax. But Clifford is a psycho, obviously, so he is going to do some dumb stuff later. Then it cuts to Ethel, and we have another dum-dum. The sheriff is talking to them about the milkman because she murdered him last episode, and she didn't murder him. She killed him because of self-defense, which we learn. He was attacking her, and she, like, you know, took the knife from him and stabbed him. And Tom is very, very weird and off about the entire situation. I'm very annoyed about the fact that we are constantly right about how dumb this guy is.
So in this, you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, like, no, we did get a lot in this episode. Like we've been saying it for weeks, Tom Keller, like, you're hiding something.
You're
this
sketchy.
week, Jughead realized it. He's like, yo, you're not making, because Tom Keller was like, oh, this is basically like an open and shut like case. And Jughead's like, are you dumb? Like, this is still open. Like,
he's like, who is he? What's his name?
Like, he's like, no. He's like, we already wrapped it up. He's like, no. And so now Jughead's caught on to what's actually happening.
Right. It's interesting because, like, even by like, to your point, like, because it's a transitional episode, they only go so far before he kind of like has to focus on other things, like the comic. But like, I wish that he like bit into that a little bit more and is like, why is he trying to hide this? You know what I mean? Like,
we do get more of that later, and I'll maybe say it like when we get to that point.
Let's talk about that later. But so anyway, he ends up saying also that Ethel now has no place to live. Jughead's like, she can live with me.
Like, shout out to Jughead for taking care of her, honestly.
He's trying so dang hard. But
because he was like, she needs somewhere, and then he's like, she could just stay with me, and then and he's like, no, she needs like an adult.
She needs an adult.
And I was like, what about Jughead? He has no parents.
Literally been emancipated from his family. It's so true. Like, they never even touch that at all. They don't even mention the fact that like he is an orphan. He lives in a box by himself. I mean, a really nice boxcar. But they end up talking to Alice and Mary, which, like, I don't know why they're in the same scene together.
I don't know why they brought both in. Like, why not just one of them, right? Like,
it was interesting.
Like, I get in the end why, but
yeah. So Mary ends up saying like it's the best that Ethel goes back to stay with the the Coopers. And apparently, according to Alice, I don't know if I believe her. I don't know how you feel about it, but she basically says like, "Oh well, the Sisters of Quiet Mercy was actually not even my idea; it was Mr. Cooper's idea."
No, like, I thought that was interesting. Like, I flagged that in my brain. Yeah.
So do you feel like she's telling the truth, or was she like?
So.
Yeah. Okay.
I think so, but like, I'm sure she was inclined to listen to him. Right. But I do think it was probably his idea, like, originally.
Right. I just feel. Here's my problem with Alice, and I'll say this as quick as humanly possible, but I have an issue with the fact that, like, what is she standing for? You know what I mean? I understand if you care about your family.
It's interesting that you're bringing that up now, because I do think in this episode, that starts to play. She starts to question because of Mary, what am I doing?
Like,
Like,
what is my motive
so
here?
it's interesting that you're saying that now because I do feel like she finally got that this week.
Right. Because like even her like laissez-faire attitude toward the fact that Ethel was abused at the Sisters of Quiet Mercy. Like, if you care about kids, and especially kids who are literally orphaned because their parents got murdered,
Yeah, yeah.
like, you'd think that she'd have like a, oh my God, I didn't know that was like, you know, like bring some empathy, some compassion
Yeah.
to her character. Instead, she's like, I am a robot. I am a, you know, Susie Housemaker. Like, like, we get it. We get that she's supposed to play this character, but like no human being who's not a literal sociopath would follow that, like, oh, your parents got murdered, like come along, like it wasn't my idea, it was my husband's. Like, what am I supposed to do with that information? Like, as a
I
person watching
think
it, you're like, what the is
so
wrong with
it
you?
could be two things, and I'll say this quickly again too, but it could be two things. I do feel like we're gonna find out that a lot of her motivations are because of Hal and the way Hal has forced them to live this sort of life of like these rules and like shelter. And maybe Hal is still a serial killer in this universe, and I do feel like she knows that, and she's trying to protect people while also still being like a partner to him and like trying to like maybe like tone him down a little bit. I don't know. I feel
Yeah,
like we're gonna find out more of her motivations, and maybe a part of her sending, again, like I said it before, maybe she sent her there to get her out of like Hal's way so that he wouldn't kill her too.
right,
Like that's what I was thinking like
right,
originally. So maybe we'll understand that more like once we understand more of Alice and like the relationship that she's had with Hal, you know?
yeah. I just like, I think like one easy win, and I like to your point, we'll see how it all plays out and like what their grand plan of it all was. But I think it would have been a really good opportunity, not to say that like I'm not making light of this at all, but like domestic violence was a huge thing, and it's still, I mean, it still
Yeah.
is. But in the 50s, that like the dichotomy between the male and the female in the family was always such a big thing. Like, that is why the woman stays at home and I stay at work, and they don't really touch on that in like a aggressive way, in the sense that it was happening behind closed doors to so many families that you'd think that they would take his character to
Well,
that direction, like take him all the way that she's like so afraid of him, afraid to speak when he's around,
but maybe
shuts
it
her
will
mouth.
be like that.
And like we do get some moments, but then they were like, but you're still Alice. Like, she's still a little feisty on her own. Like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand like what RAS told her to be in this world, because I think that if she was like a mousy, timid character, we, number one, would have way more compassion for her, because we're like,
Yeah,
okay,
that's
she's
true.
hiding something, she's worried about something. You can tell she's a little dodgy. Like, I'm not saying like slap her on screen. I'm not telling like how to like have this like a level of violence and aggression. I'm just saying like maybe we could have seen that a little bit more, so we can act as if like
But I
it's
felt
not just
like
her being a psycho, like it's, there's a reason for it.
yeah, and maybe they should have
But
done a better job along the way, but I do feel like I look at Alice like that, especially in the original timeline. Like here was a girl kind of like from the wrong side of the tracks. She got pregnant with Hal. He was the breadwinner. She had to have the baby. Like that's kind of what I did picture what Alice and Hal were. Like he
mhm,
made the money. She worked with him, yes, but like ultimately like it was his family's like radio station or newspaper or whatever it was. So it's his
right,
family money. So he is the breadwinner. So I already did see them kind of like in that dynamic, but to your point, like maybe in this timeline, they could have like accentuated that a bit more, or maybe we're still gonna get that. I don't know. Maybe we'll
yeah,
get a bit more of the understanding of their dynamic,
right,
but I do already see them like that. It's just
mm,
she's just a little bit more like feisty.
right,
Which might lend to her eventually coming out and being like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Like this guy's
right,
crazy, you know? So
right.
maybe, yeah.
Shove it, Hal, as she
Shove it,
said in the
Hal. Maybe she'll say
first
it again in
six,
this universe. That'll be
maybe.
funny
Yeah,
if it
a little
happens again.
callback.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's how I feel about them. Let's move on to the next scene. The next scene is Archie and Reggie. They're just talking, and Archie says, like, wow, Reggie, like, you're such a hero for saving all the bulldogs. But again, Reggie's perspective is completely different, where he's like, you know, if something worse happened, they would have pinned the entire thing on me. I would have gone to jail. It would have been worse. So like, really, I'm just out here trying to survive. Like, I'm just trying to
Literally, I
do the
was
damn
like,
thing.
you're so right. Like, I was sitting there being like, Reggie, save yourself. And then I'm like, oh my God, he's so right.
Yeah,
They would have blamed everything on him and then
facts.
he would have gone to jail.
Absolutely. It was such a sad reality, and like that is the thing, right? Like I do like that he doesn't nip at Archie, because Archie has such like a optimistic perspective on
Yeah.
everything. Like he's always optimistic about everything. He's like, "Oh my god, you're the hero." But Reggie's like, "No, not for me. Like maybe for you, but not for me."
Yeah.
So it's cool that they're still learning from each other. Like they're really like they really made them brothers, like true
Yeah.
brothers in
Yeah.
this storyline, in this
And
world.
friends, like really
Yeah.
right, yeah.
So then it cuts to the Cooper residence. Betty's about to like leave for school. She's like, "Oh, Ethel, like let's go. I'll walk with you to school." And then Alice is like, "No, she's gonna like I'm gonna drive her later." And I was like, "Okay, weird."
Okay,
So
like
obviously
kind of like
Betty's like
baby
off
time.
about her mom.
Yeah.
Betty talks to Veronica about this after at school, and then Veronica out of nowhere obviously like one ups her, and she's like, "Oh, your mom won't talk to you? Well, my parents made me homeless." She just like drops it right on her. And of course
She's like, I have
Veronica
no
making it
home
all
right
about
now.
herself. Yeah, she's like, "I'm homeless now." Um and
I
Betty's like,
was
"Well,
glad that she said it because a part of me was like, is she gonna lie? Like,
right,
is she gonna
right.
cover it up? But
Is
she
she
was
gonna
very honest.
continually cover it up?"
Yeah.
And I guess like it is interesting because we didn't really see it necessarily on screen. The last time we talked, like the last time this was brought up, she lied about it. She did talk. She like
Yeah, with the
didn't
boys,
tell
right?
Clay. Yeah, she
Yeah.
didn't tell the boys about it. So the fact that like maybe it was that last scene that we saw last episode where she looks at her parents' picture and she like starts to feel really sad about the fact that her parents like basically abandoned her, that now she's willing to like speak up about it. um so Betty, anyway, she says, "Well, did you ever try to like break into the Pembroke to get back in?" And so obviously that's gonna happen. Then it cuts to class, and everyone's in the same class. Apparently, the English teacher uh tells the class that she wants to read like a poem. It's called The Phantom, and it was written by Archie, and Archie's the only one at this point
And
who
like she doesn't
knows.
say it. She doesn't say who
She
it's
doesn't
by.
say it in the very beginning. She's reading it, and it's like this really sad
Like
story about like the fact that he's like, disappearing.
he's
He
like,
doesn't
I don't
feel
know
like
what it means to be a man, like
yeah,
questioning like his identity basically. He's
like
like,
who he
I'm here,
is.
but I'm not really here.
Like I'm see-through. I'm just a
Yeah.
phantom. I was like, "Whoa."
I was like,
And
damn.
then so two gaggy things happened. The first thing is Kevin, I love that you love Clay. Like, let's get it. Your man's your man, whatever.
Yeah.
He's literally like, "Oh my god, Clay, that was the best thing ever." Like, bitch, it wasn't even his poem, so take it
And
down
like, why
a
are you baiting
notch.
someone out? Like, what if it wanted to be private?
Yeah, what if it was Clay? Like, leave him alone.
Exactly.
But then the teacher baits him out anyway. He's like, "Actually, it was Archie.
Yeah.
Archie Andrews. He's right over there." I was like, "Oh my god, I would be mortified if that."
Everyone was shooketh. Like even Reggie was like, "You?"
He's like, "You're
Everyone's
the
like,
one who feels invisible." Like, I'm like, how are you gonna do that to this poor kid who's just poured his heart out into the poem? Like,
I thought that Betty looked at Archie at one point, and I'm like, does she know that it's him? Because she would
right,
know that it's him. Like, do you know what I mean?
right,
Like, I thought that would be a really cute like moment between the two because she knows him so well on like a deeper
yeah,
level. Like,
yeah.
I felt like she was like, I think that might be him. You
And then
know?
she like, everyone finds out anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then on top of that, the teacher freaking is like, "Would you like to speak about it? Because clearly I have lots to say." Like, what are you expecting this guy to pour his heart out to his
I
English
know, but I
class?
thought
Like,
it was so
fuck,
cute.
what
Like,
an ambush!
I thought it was so cute. I liked
But
it.
like, I don't know. I like that teacher.
I like
Rude.
her. I
Take her
like
aside.
her.
Take him aside and be like, "I like what they had later because it's a
Yeah.
private moment, as it should have been."
Yeah.
But the fact that she's like, "Yeah, this story is all about like being sad and then lonely. Like, do you want to talk about it right now in class?" Like, no teacher would ever. I would sink into the floor
But
and
like
die.
also for considering that it's like 1950s, like big ups to her for like wanting to talk about feelings and like identity
Fair.
and especially
Yeah.
male identity. Like
Yeah.
men did not talk about that shit at that time. So the
True.
fact that like she did instigate that, like I really did appreciate it. Of course,
You're
like
like,
his
work.
choice is like I don't want to talk about it, but it was nice that like she did that. I don't know. I thought that was nice.
So then it cuts to the lockers. And Archie is named captain. Like he's named captain by Frank. He obviously looks very uneasy about it.
I mean, this conversation is happening right after the conversation of I don't know what it means to be a man.
Precisely.
I don't know who I am. And then he gets assigned this captain position and he's completely like in shock.
Yeah.
And like the juxtaposition is like so amazing to see, because he should be happy, he should be like so proud, but he's kind of like, I don't know if I deserve it fully.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
there's someone
yeah.
better on the team, obviously.
Right.
And
Right.
then Frank backs it up with saying, "Oh, by the way, here's like your dad's like captain's like medal."
Yes,
I'm
yes,
like,
yes.
true, like, oh my God. Like, and then you feel again that pressure on Archie. Like he's like, okay, like true,
I
like
guess I
I guess I
should.
should. It's like my
Yeah.
dad's thing. And so
Right.
here we go again, talking about like that pressure that you're
Yeah.
supposed to feel this way or take on these responsibilities because of what? Because of like your dad was that or your grandpa was that? It just was really sad to see him, like he really had to think about it, you know?
Right. I think also, I mean, in that scene too, he also says like Clifford made the choice. Like he's like, you can't
Yeah.
really say anything past that. So you got to do what you got to do. And yeah, I think that pressure to be reminded that like your dad was a captain, so
Yeah,
like you should be a captain.
Stand up and be as good as him.
Like meanwhile, he doesn't even have a father figure really to like stand on right now. And yeah, it's a tough time for little Archie. Then it cuts to the so a little bit of mix up, but it cuts to the principal's office. Essentially they're like dropping it just like the Keller, like just like Tom Keller's. He's like, yeah, it looks like you know, the milkman was a drifter according to the sheriff. Like he was just like a drifter. He's dead, he's gone. And then they ask more questions. They're like, okay, well, the definition of a drifter is like literally they kill and then they leave.
Drifted.
They drift.
He did not drift. He killed.
He's stuck around. So they're like, well, I don't even really know. It's not our place to question it. So there's something very sketchy, and very sketchy going on here.
And then he says, what did he say? He's like, so don't worry about it. It's only a stupid tale in one of your comics, The Milkman.
Oh, I don't remember that part. What do you think the significance of that is?
He was like, don't worry, it's just a stupid story. See, now the milkman only exists in the comics. Something like along that line. And I was like, I know exactly what these fuckers did. And Jughead too looks at Ethel like, what? Like,
what's happening?
How would he just tie it to the comics? And then I thought they created this guy so that they could cancel comics. Right. They created the villain of the milkman from the comic so that they could say, look, see, it came to fruition. We can't have comics. Like,
yeah, for sure.
That's what I took from that, for sure.
Yeah. That's a really good theory, because he does, his final thing is like, well, now you know you shouldn't read comics, because clearly this guy was influenced by the comics that you read, the violent comics that you read. So that's just like underlining my theory that comics are bad.
Got your ammo now, motherfucker.
Exactly, you fucking psycho.
And then even Jughead and we're like, okay, this guy's sketch.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, everyone
they know
should be,
that, but like I like how it's like hitting them in like different parts, you know?
They're like, where? So then it cuts to the Cooper residence, and Betty basically like comes down the stairs and she's like, I'm leaving. I'm gonna go live with Veronica. And Alice is like, okay, bye.
Bye. Have fun.
Okay, so cool. She's just letting her go. Yeah. Like, my interest now, anyway, we'll talk. I'm gonna wait till talk about it after. So then it cuts to Betty and Veronica. They break into the Pembroke, and because
it's so easy,
Betty obviously picks the lock. I was like, good for you.
She's like, Betty, when did you learn to do that with your hairpin?
She's like, you know, Tracy True. And then Veronica invites Clay and Kevin also to the place. So like they're all gonna have a little sleepover.
But like, okay, never mind.
What were you gonna say?
I don't know, like how is there still power? Like the lights are on, the heat still works. Like you know what I mean? Like it doesn't make sense.
Smithers was probably told to like keep everything running, just like let it run.
Yeah.
So then it cuts to the Clifford and Cheryl talking, and she's essentially upset because like the game is moving forward, despite the fact that Julian is literally laying in a hospital bed unconscious. So you get to see quite a strong, like severe relationship between Clifford and Cheryl, where he forces her to cheer. Essentially, he's like, you're gonna scream your lungs out for those basketball players until your lips turn like, you know, your like
lungs turn red and like you bleed. I was like, what the
and then he's like, and then he basically threatens her, chokes her, and says, you'll suffer a fate worse than Julian if you don't do this. So
you want an abusive daddy? You got an abusive daddy right there.
You got it.
You got it. You got the one you wanted.
Know, I do like the fact that they're putting a little bit more heat on Clifford and not on Penelope, because Penelope was always the crazy person in the last 6 seasons.
Well, because Clifford died, right? So quick, like in the first season, basically.
We never really got to see like how evil and diabolical he was toward the kids. So it's kind of an interesting shift to show that he's the baddie. So anyway, she's terrified.
Do you think he had something to do with the accident?
No, I don't think so. No. Okay. I think it's just like it works in his favor. It's just another reason for him to kick him out. Then it cuts to Betty and Veronica, Clay and Kevin singing a song. What do you think of the song?
That was cute.
Yeah.
What was the song?
It was called "I'm Gonna Wash That Man Out of My Hair." Mm-hmm. It's a movie. Like I looked it up quickly. Like, I think it was like a movie from the 1950s. Okay. So they sang that song, like cute, whatever. Cute. I wish that they did Grease, but I know Grease came later. Something cute.
Now they're being like on track with their date.
Now they're being relevant with the time. Okay. Got it. So then it cuts to Kevin talking about the date with Archie, and I wanted to ask you about this because it only happened last episode, but Betty seems to be like so off Archie, like almost immediately, like
the way she talked about it was so nonchalant, and like I was like, is she doing that on purpose at first? And then I'm like, no, like I think she's just being honest. I don't know what I really thought about it. And then Veronica gave her like a weird look too. Did you notice that?
I think that it has to do with the fact that like they want to link them together, which we can talk about a little bit more later.
Link who together?
Betty and Veronica for like this little snippet of time.
I thought she just did that because she was like because she liked Archie, like Veronica liked Archie.
No, I don't think it has anything to do with that necessarily. I think it just has to do with the fact that like they're trying to link them together, but at the same time, I think it's annoying because like she didn't just have like an ad time. Like they left it off on such a good note. Like they were about to kiss in front of her door. Like I don't understand. Like it's almost like they were trying to fit this storyline in really quick so they can bring them back to Archie. But you could have easily said something like, he just seems really distracted. Like we all heard the poem in English class. You know what I mean? Like, bring something else up instead of being like, I'm kind of off Archie. Like you
and that's didn't what makes seem like me you were believe off Archie. More that things are filmed not in order, and maybe that didn't happen yet, and so they didn't know where to go with that conversation. I don't know. You're right. It felt weird.
Random. So anyway, they talk about the dates, and then Veronica, of course, the horn dog of Riverdale, it's like, so tell us, boys, who's packing the most heat up in that locker room? And like they're like, well, Archie and Reggie, they're very like they're lucky.
Like they have nothing to complain about. Like
they have nothing to complain about. But the side swipe is Dilton has got a huge dick.
That still doesn't make me want him. I'm sorry.
Like it's always the small, quiet ones, as Veronica said. Like
he's never know.
He's got it going.
But like that's the thing, and like it's so bad for me to say, but like I feel like if you have BDE, like you'd be a different person. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't be like shy and timid and like like if you had BDE, like you would be that guy.
I mean, he has just BD. He doesn't have BDE. He just got the BD.
He got BD.
He got to work on the E part. Anyway, I thought it was hilarious to like that little throw.
It was so cute. Like it was such a fun conversation. Yeah. And like I 100% would have asked J-Lag like at one point in our lifetime that question.
Who got the big one? No, but that's the thing, like going back to what you were saying in the very beginning of the episode, like very high school, like very like sleepover slumber party conversation.
If I asked my husband the same question, he won't say it. Because the rule is that you don't look. Like, that's the thing. Like, you don't talk, you don't look. But, like, if I ask J-Lag, he'll be like, okay, so this
is like girl, this. Listen.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Definitely, like, a different kind of talk.
Yeah.
But so anyways, then it cuts to the basketball game the next morning, and this is the scene that we saw from the trailer. Like they were all hungover. That's why they were wearing the sunglasses. So they were they're like, I don't want to be here right now.
Oh, and I did like the little like throw to the rum because she was like, Veronica, this rum is like lit, and Veronica was like, yeah, it's my family's recipe. Did you?
I didn't even put that.
So, yeah.
That's amazing. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So anyway, they're hungover, probably from all the rum. And there's a moment actually in the very beginning where they look over at Dilton and Dilton's like, what?
Yeah.
And they're like,
He's like, what are you looking at? They're like,
he's like, anyway, then it cuts to Cheryl introducing Archie as the captain. And I do love that they threw this quick line in there because Archie didn't just like stand up and be like, oh, hey, thanks, Cheryl.
yeah,
He like
yeah.
had a moment with her even was like, hey, Cheryl, like, is everything
I
good? Like, are you
know. I
doing
thought that was so
good?
cute.
And then Cheryl's like, no, I hate this. Like, this is the worst thing that
Also,
I could
like,
be
I
doing
was
right
very
now.
confused about Cheryl. Like, I get that's her brother, but like, she hated him.
Yeah, which they explain, like, she does
Yeah.
say it kind of in her little monologue to him later. But this is what I complained about, I think, even earlier in the season, is like, she loved Jason in the other season. Like the
Yeah.
other season, like they were like this. The way that she talked about them,
Yeah.
like talked about him, like they were tight. So to see this relationship between these two twins, like you don't even see them as twins. Like if they didn't have red hair and they didn't look similar to each other, you wouldn't even think that they were related. Like they don't have the same kind of connection. So I mean, your brother's your brother. If they run off a cliff
Yeah.
and is unconscious, like you care, I
Yeah.
guess,
Yeah.
to some degree. So anyway, so she's annoyed. Archie does a speech. We don't get to hear his speech, but he's obviously very awkward about it. And then later on, when he's in the hallway, he's just kind of like chilling out. His English teacher comes up and is like, hey, you did a great speech. You're really talented with your words. And, you know, like Archie's really bashful about it. He's like, no, 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 like I'm not that good. And she's like, you should try to put your effort, like the way that you put into basketball, into writing. Like you're a good writer and you should like look into it. Like I know
Mm-hmm.
it's not glamorous, but check it out.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting way to segue into like him songwriting, which happens in the earlier
I
original
really
season.
did appreciate a teacher being the one to guide the student, and we don't get to see a lot of that. A lot of the times the teachers are like
Yeah,
villainized in the show, and I
true.
did really really appreciate that she would like believed in him and she was like go after it. Like you do have a talent, because a lot of the
Yeah,
times in high school like you do get a lot of things from your teachers, like especially when they're good teachers, like a lot of guidance does come from them, right? So
right, for
I thought
sure.
it was a really cute moment, and I thought it was nice that they've at least once shown like a good example of a teacher, you know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. If anything, like I wish that they like kind of like threw her in a little bit more because like she comes out of almost nowhere to be like, I'm a good teacher. And I
I
was
didn't
like,
mind it. I didn't mind
I wish
it.
she was around a little bit longer, like so she could be like, to your point, like an established cool teacher instead of like a crazy murderous one.
Yeah.
So then it cuts to Pep Comics, and the boss is talking to Jughead and Ethel. He's like, welcome back. He's excited to get back into it. And Ethel's like, I want to do the Milkman Part 2. And he's like, you
Part
can
deux.
literally write anything except for that. Like, there's too much heat about it right
Yeah.
now. Literally, like, the murder just happened. Like, maybe let's not talk about that story. And they push for it a little bit, but they like, they're like, obviously, like, he's against it for obvious reasons. Then it cuts to Mary Andrews, and I do they ever mention that she has a clothing store before this? Like,
No, and I was so
I was
shook to
like,
see her. I was like,
oh,
what?
okay, you got a whole
She's a
store,
business
girl.
owner? I thought she was a
So
lawyer.
yeah, I
Oh, like
know
in the
they
original
totally
timeline.
changed. I guess she couldn't
Oh,
be a
because it's
lawyer.
like different times, right? Like,
1950s, like
yeah,
women
true.
can't be
True, true,
lawyers.
true.
NB, not in the
It's just like
1950s.
less likely, especially like in a small town. Like it's not probably not going to
Totally,
be
totally.
likely.
So the girls go in there to buy some dresses. They pick up
Which,
some
by the
cute
way, I was like,
stuff.
how does she have money?
Right. I mean, I guess she's making money. Who? Betty or Veronica?
Veronica.
I mean,
She's like, put it on my tab,
she's
Mary.
a
I'm like, what
business
tab do you
owner. Don't you
have?
know?
What,
She's
you
a
making
business
money off your
owner.
popcorn? Like what?
I guess she is. Um, Still living in a freaking theater though. So she goes and buys some dresses, and she says like, send them to the Pembroke. Which,
Yeah.
if you're sneakily going back into
Girl.
your house, like, just take the
Send them to the
dresses
theater or something.
it's the
Like,
go
that's
somewhere
the
else
thing.
with
Like,
them.
she was feeling herself so hard. She's
So
like, put it
hard.
on my tab.
Yeah.
Ship it to the Pembroke. Send me garment bags. Like, girl, calm the fuck down. Like, you're in hiding right now. Just take the clothes and take
Like,
it with you. Like, who are you?
Wouldn't Smithers have had to sign for them to begin with? Like, she would have been booked anyhow. It's like she was playing with fire.
Like, she was just.
She was like, yeah, just put them on tab. It's fine.
Yeah.
And then Betty, on top of that, doubles down. And she's like, yeah, same with me. Send them to the Pembroke because we're staying together. Okay, cool.
She's like, don't you live at home? She's like, no. I don't know.
She's like, no, my mom said it's fine. Don't worry about it. Okay. She's like, at one point I was initially I was so annoyed that Mary like got involved, but then I was like, thank God she got involved.
Like it was happening right in front of her. She was like, okay, I need to fucking put my foot down here. Like, what is happening?
She's like, I need to like talk to these girls. It was
good. I liked it.
So then it cuts to Riverdale High, like the front of Riverdale High, and it's a really quick scene where the Stonewall basketball team, led by Brett, who we know from like previous seasons, steals the mascot, the bulldog, like statue, and drives away, basically threatening like, you'll get it back if you guys win the game.
Yeah.
Cool.
And they were making fun of Reggie too. They're like, oh, he choked when he was playing on our team. Like, he didn't do anything on our team. And like, they were just like making fun of him.
Like, that guy. And so Reggie, with the best like revenge, is like, well, I know all of these people's tells, so we're gonna make a plan.
Yeah,
so he sits like, down in the next scene and like basically says like what everybody else's weaknesses are, tells the team like this is what you have to do. He plans it all out.
Loved it.
And then he cuts to a shot where Archie obviously is like looking down. He's like feeling down about the whole situation. And then afterward, Archie and Reggie are like doing dishes at home. And Archie says to him, he's like, I feel like I'm an imposter. Reggie you should be the captain. Like, don't you have like the dreams to be a captain? And this is when Reggie says, as far as dreams, I don't have any. I just have a plan. I need to do this. I need to get this championship done. I need to get my scholarship. I need to keep moving. Like, he doesn't see it the same way again that Archie does. And while I appreciate Archie's like lack of like self in this particular moment, in the same vein, they're playing with a concept of, bro, like self-discovery. Like, I don't have time for that. Like, I am a Korean American living in a small town. Like, I don't have dreams. I just have to figure out what the fuck I have to do on the day-to-day so I can keep my scholarship. Like, dreams, you want to like play songs. Ain't nobody got
time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. You
know what I mean? So, but they don't make them contentious, which I really appreciate. Like, them coming from like two different sides of the tracks in that vibe. Like, they could totally be like, Reggie could totally have a chip on his shoulder and be like, bro, and I know that they did that kind of earlier in the season, but to keep bringing it back around to be like, I can't, that's not where my head's at, bro. Like, I know that you're feeling some type of way about it, but like, that's not where I'm at. But they don't like make it feel very like this. So in this moment, he actually asks Archie, like, what is your passion? Like, what do you want to do? And Archie's like, even if I told you, like, you wouldn't believe me because I want to be a writer.
I love writing.
I want to write a book. Then it cuts to Ethel and Jughead talking, and Ethel's like sad. She's sad because she can't write this milkman story. In the very beginning, I was like, Ethel, why would you want to write about something so traumatic? It just happened to you. Your parents were murdered by the milkman. But
no, she sold it. Yeah.
She totally sold it to me in this scene where she basically says, like, you know, this whole time that this whole thing was happening, like, I basically was gaslit by literally everyone 100%. To the point where she felt like she was crazy. Like, she was like,
everyone else is telling her, this is how it went.
This is how it happened. This is why you're wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she says she wants to tell her story or a version of her story in her own words. And this was going to be like her way to do that through the comic book. And Jughead's like, I totally understand where you're coming from. Like, let's try to find a way to do this so you can tell your story. Yeah. Which I loved. I love that I love that Jughead was there for her.
They're growing on me like hard. Like, I really, really am enjoying their dynamic together.
And honestly, if Tabitha wasn't in the picture, I would totally stand them. Because I feel like
I still stand them, but like, I do feel like it's just a friendship. And I think what we learned from this episode in general is like, we don't always need a romantic relationship to get a great storyline, to get a great conversation, to get growth. Like, that can happen
Right.
in a friendship, like B and
Yeah,
B and
absolutely.
Archie and Reggie and Ethel and Jughead. Like, it
And
doesn't
Betty and
always have to
Veronica.
be that. Like, yeah. And it doesn't always have to be romantic, you know?
Totally. For sure. Good point. So then it cuts to Betty and Veronica talking to the Pembroke. And another kind of like big scene where they're talking about their mommy issues, essentially.
Yeah.
Like they're just trading stories, being like, well, my mom basically disowned me. And Veronica's like, well, I think that I was a mistake and my parents never wanted me. So there's that whole situation. The one thing that Betty does mention in this little quick moment that I want to talk to you about is Polly, the Polly.
Yes, the Polly of it all. Yeah.
She mentions Polly. Finally, we
Yeah,
find out that
finally.
Polly is like alive and well and thriving, but she's
But
not in
doesn't
Riverdale.
say much about her.
Doesn't say
other
much about
than
her.
She's not here.
Yeah, she's like, as soon as she hit 18, she left.
Right.
That's all we really know.
That sounds sketchy to me. Like,
that
for
sounds sketchy
sure.
to me. So my inkling is maybe that will become a part of Alice's redemption storyline.
Yeah.
And that's a good enough reason for me to be like, okay, I get it. Like, if she ends up saying to Betty, like, you know what, your sister, I screwed up so hard. As soon as she could get out of here, she left me, and she left me with your shitty dad, and like, I'm here all alone, and you know, it hurt. So it makes sense that Betty is like being controlled and she wants her to be this perfect girl when Polly's the one that's like, I'm out, like I'm leaving, you know? So maybe that will be worked into the storyline. Like, how did you feel about the fact that she just randomly brought her up?
No, I'm glad she brought her up, because that really did feel like another peel off the onion of like this whole family dynamic.
Yeah.
And knowing that she does exist, she left. Why did she leave? So definitely very intriguing, and I'm glad that they did bring it up. I don't know what that's gonna mean. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah.
It has to do with it. It's got to
100%.
do with
How?
at least Alice's redemption story. Like, I think
like
that's
the
a
whole
good
house. Like, I feel like maybe Alice told her like, leave, like get away from your dad,
Run.
like whatever, or she decided that on her own. Like, who knows?
Right. So then they make a pact to never. They say, let's make a pact. We'll never grow up to be anything like our parents. Which I think is like the entire synopsis of the story too. Like, that is really what happens in all of season one. Like, you see the mistakes of the parents leak into the repercussions of the kids. And like, when they have the fast forward, you see like this different dynamic where they're also messed up kind of by their parents as well. So anyway, it was cute to see, like, kind of like, it almost felt like when they do these kinds of things, it almost feels like an origin story, even though they're in like completely parallel universes. So anyway, I loved it. Then they gush about how Kevin and Clay are super adorable together. You know, like, Veronica starts talking about the fact that she's kind of jealous because like they're so close. And they talk about the fact that like, in a way, like, it's possibly easier to have like the same sex relationships.
I thought
versus
that was
like
a really great conversation to bring up. Like, that was I didn't know where this conversation was heading. And then when they brought that up, I'm like, that's actually like a great observation from her, someone who's in that time where like you don't see a lot of same-sex couples around, like for her to make that observation. I just thought it was really like brilliant for them to sort of steer that in that way.
Because when she said it's easier, I was like, you sure about that, girl?
No, yeah.
But then when she explains it and says like, the dichotomy, like the differences between same sex versus like the male female, which was so prevalent in the 50s, makes so much sense. So then they go on to talk about like same sex relationships, and then Betty talks to Veronica about the statistics that girls.
So pause here.
Yeah.
Because a couple weeks ago, I asked you, do you think there's going to be a lesbianist moment between Betty and Veronica?
Yes,
and you said did. No, not at all.
I said I would love it, but like, I don't think it's going to happen at all this season. No.
So in this moment, as we're leading up to this conversation, are you being like, wait, is something going to happen?
Yes, I was gagged. I was fully gagged. I was like, wait, what's happening? Wait, what's happening?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah.
So yeah, so then they start talking about the fact that like girls engage with other girls before the age of 18, like 81% of girls like experiment. And Veronica's like, oh yeah, I totally believe that. I kissed a girl before, like while I was in Hollywood. And
no,
Betty
she even said like someone that you know. Oh, did she mean Hollywood? I thought she meant like high school.
Oh, I thought that she meant like
You're
some
right.
other
Maybe
time.
someone you like, celebrity or something. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then she's like, Betty says like, I'd love to try like kissing at some point in time, but like it has to be with someone specific that I know.
Yeah.
And then Veronica's like who? And then Betty's like, well, just with you.
Like, it's
I want to make out with you, girl.
And then, but I knew it. Like, I just felt like it's not gonna happen. I'm like, some dumb shit.
Really?
Because then the music changed. If you notice, the music went from like kind of like sexy and like slow.
Yeah.
And then they switched it when she said that. I think it turned to like bong, ding, dong, bong, bong,
oh.
like funky. I'm like, why are they playing like?
You're like it's weird? Not gonna happen.
And I'm like, something dumb's gonna happen. And then sure enough, like they start like going in for this slow kiss. And then it's like record scratch. And then Smithers.
Yeah, Mary and Smithers come in before they kiss, and
so what do you think? Like, do you feel like, do you still want it to happen, or are you like, that was it?
I think that's it. I think that's a wrap. I think they tried it. I do wish that they just did it, just to say that they did it. Like, I don't think that there's a hurt in that at all.
Yeah.
You know, it's an innocent kiss. It kind of like it's not that it feeds that flame necessarily, because by the end of the episode, I just feel like they end up loving each other as friends.
100%.
But I do feel that, like, you know, it would have been a cute moment and a great throwback to the very first episode where they kissed.
Yes.
You know?
Oh my God, you're so right. I forgot about that.
Right. So like, I don't know if maybe they just didn't want to push that, or what the reason exactly was, or if they just wanted to have a comedic moment with it. But I think that it would have been cute if they just had that one little kiss, like 7 seasons later, you know?
I think you're right. I think they should have just finished it and done it, and then like, and then he could have like barged in, you know?
Exactly. Like they didn't, like, maybe they were about to get even more.
Yeah. Like,
and then it stops.
The tongue was about to like enter the situation.
Or even if it was just an innocent like peck, and like they both kind of got shocked, and then like the doors open.
To your point, later on they have this really great friend conversation. So I think that would have just cleared everything up to be like, we're just like girls, like forever. Exactly. Like, I got you. Exactly. That would have been it, you know?
Right. Then so then Mary comes in and she's like, you got to tell me everything, girls. Like, look, we got to talk about this. So then it cuts to Cheryl talking to Julian in the hospital. She starts crying. She says all the things that we just said. Like, I know you're a shitty brother, but you know, you're still my brother and I love you and I don't want you to die. And then he wakes up as she's talking to him and he's like, girl, stop crying. You're so annoying. Love you.
Yeah.
So they have like a tiny moment. To your point. Like, I don't know if it's still, it really like shows how they're close by any means, but they're twins. So like, it's never not going to be that way. So then it cuts to Mary talking to the girls, and she like hears their stories. She feels horrible, and she's like, "Don't worry, I'm gonna fix everything. Like we'll figure this out." Then it cuts to Cheryl. She's obviously very excited to tell Clifford, like, "Bro, like your son is okay." Like whatever. She's about to walk in to talk to him, and she overhears Clifford talking to the principal, and it turns out that they want to replace Reggie as captain and as a sponsor and get someone named K.O. Kelly, who we know from Katie Keene, who will be replacing Reggie on the basketball team.
Right.
And I had to rewind it back to be like, okay, what else were they talking about? Because like, was there any like mysterious storyline that we don't know about? But he just, I think the principal was basically like, aren't you worried that like the parents will like sue you or whatever? And essentially Clifford says like they don't have a leg to stand on. They won't be able to afford a lawyer. They're so poor because they're farmers. So essentially he just wants to get rid of Reggie. Then it cuts to Mary yelling at Alice, like ripping her an asshole. A second asshole, I should say. And Veronica, so right away Veronica gets back at the Pembroke. She gets her keys. She's like back in business. And then there's another weird scene that like Alice is not like endearingly being nicer to Betty, but like Betty's back in her room.
Yeah.
And like she's like, okay, so I guess are you my mom again? And I forget what Alice says, but like basically she's like, yeah. And then
Like
she's like,
it is what it is. But
I'm
yeah,
like,
like big
okay.
ups to Mary for like literally she's like, I already called Hermione and I cursed her out too, and
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
so
yeah.
disappointed in the both of you. What kind of children are you raising? Like she called them out and I was
She
like,
ripped
thank you
them.
for finally being a voice and then saying it to them like
Yeah.
straight to their face.
Like, girl, where have you been for the past 4 episodes? This has been
Yeah.
freaking
Well,
crazy.
I think they made it make sense. They made it make sense in terms of like how Mary would notice that. Otherwise, like how is she gonna notice it? Like she's
Right.
raising like Archie. That's it.
And she's like she has been barely in the show so far. So
Yeah.
like this having like an active parent, thank God,
Yeah.
it's Mary Andrews. Then it cuts to Cheryl talking to Archie at school, and she basically tells him like what she overheard, and then Archie goes to talk to Reggie about it, and Reggie's like, okay, well, I still want to like do what I came here to do. And Archie's like, I don't think it's right, like we got to like stand up against this. And Reggie's like, well, I'd love to be captain and like finish my season as
Yeah.
the captain of this team. And Archie's like, okay, let's make it happen. Like,
But
let's
this
like, I
game
will push
isn't the
for it.
end. This is not the final game. This is just the game against
It's
the
probably like regionals.
yeah, but like it's a big game because they've never won it before. Like it's been like a minute since they've won it,
Yeah, yeah,
but it's not
yeah.
like the championship game.
It's not like the state championships. I
Yeah,
don't
no,
think. Yeah.
no.
But I think that they beat like the region. So like Stonewall is out
Stonewall.
now, and
Yeah.
like anyway, by the end of it, that's what happens. So anyway, so they're gonna do whatever. Then it cuts to Pep Comics, and they decide to change the milkman to the mailman, which I actually thought was pretty smart. I was like,
yeah.
good job. Like,
And even
good
the
way
guy was
around
like,
it.
oh, that's a good one.
Because I was trying to figure out like how are they gonna do it,
Yeah.
but they just change it to a different person. And
then do you think there'll be a mailman killer now?
no, I feel like that would be way too close. Unless, I mean, maybe. I feel like I really want to know if they're just gonna drop the whole milkman killer storyline and like get deeper into like Clifford being a corrupt.
Well, they're
douche.
setting it up to that. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like the murders by like an assassin. I want to call him an assassin because I feel like he was hired.
Because we still don't get why they would have killed Ethel's parents.
Right. We still don't know, but we've talked about it on the pod, and I think a few people said that like when Mackenzie
like the Maple
and
connection.
the Maple connection was there.
True.
And even watching the episode back a couple weeks ago, I watched back like some of the episodes where they're talking about the connection between the parents, and like Jughead's like, no, there is no connection, or Ethel's like, there's no connection between the two of them. But then listening to what we said on the pod, I was like, no, there is a connection.
There is. Like, how would Ethel not know that?
I mean, how would she know that like Mr. Rayberry would have never like they would have maybe not even crossed paths at the Maple Farm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anyways, so the Pep Comics guy is like, oh, this is like, you know, it's obviously talking about the milkman, but you change it to mailman. Yeah. But I still really like the story. But you know that there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to come down the pipe if we do the story. So then he kind of like just bites down, and they're all just like, well, let the storm come. It's going to come anyway. We might as well just like jump in and do the damn thing.
Yeah.
So they all kind of high five each other. They're like, let's do the story. Print it right now. Then it cuts to Archie and the team confronting Clifford and saying, listen, you better make Reggie captain. I know that I know what you're doing. We'll like bring somebody else in. You better make him captain for the rest of the season, or we're all walking like as a team. And Clifford basically says like, I don't take kindly to threats. And Archie like very like diplomatically was like, it's not a threat. I'm just telling you like what the options are. Like you either do this or else we all walk, right?
Yeah.
So Clifford's like, obviously like ego exploded and he's gonna retaliate at some point. Then it cuts to Veronica calling Betty, but it was a really cute moment because Betty was also gonna call Veronica.
Yeah.
And they have a quick moment on the phone where Betty's like, I miss you, and Veronica's like, I miss you too. And then they say I love you to each other, which I thought was really cute. Like
I almost started to cry. Like I I just thought it was so sweet, and knowing that it's the final season and like this is it, like we are winding down to like the last, 10, 12 episodes. It really did make me emotional at how far they've come as friends.
As a couple, yeah, for sure. And like, yeah, it was just like a great testament to like their relationship, Betty and Veronica's relationship.
Yeah.
She asked her later, she's like, do you want to go to the game together? She's like, yeah, sounds good. Then it cuts to the next morning, locker rooms. Reggie's talking to the team as a captain, which was amazing. He also like thanks the team for supporting him, and he's like, I know that the only reason why like I can move ahead is because you guys all supported me. Like, it's nice to see like where it all ends up with him in this basketball storyline because of what we saw him go through in the beginning of the storyline, where like they were making fun of him and pushing him down and like ignoring him, and now everybody's like basically backing him because he's the shit. And it was cute because Reggie's parents also came. He's like, my parents are here to watch me play as captain. I'm really excited. I was worried as soon as he said like his parents are coming, I'm like, they're gonna die in a car accident. Like, I was worried instantly that Clifford was gonna kill them, which still might happen. I wouldn't be surprised. So then it cuts to the game, but they don't play the game. They don't show the game really. They just like kind of narrate over it, and they win. The Bulldogs win. Everybody's happy. They got their mascot back. Everything's good. And then the final scene is Archie and Reggie kind of talking in their room again. And Archie like very nicely gives him like the captain patch from his dad. And Reggie was like, I can't take that. And Archie was like, no, he'd want you to have it. I want you to have it. And Reggie was like, I'll do him proud. I was like, okay. It was so cute. And then Reggie asked him, he's like, so like, are you going to try to follow your passions of writing poetry? And Archie kind of like is finally able to like have a conversation about it and is like, yeah, we'll see. Like, I don't know if like I'll be good enough, but like it'll be interesting to see if like I can follow it. And Reggie's like, yeah, maybe you will, maybe you won't, but like check it out.
Yeah.
And then their final little shot is like a zoom out shot while Jughead is talking about like the storm that's coming.
Yeah.
They're like wrestling and they're so cute and like kiss. And so, like, what's next? And then so then as they're like having a good time, Jughead says a storm is coming and we would be all smashed to pieces by it. So Ish is literally about to hit the fan.
It's coming.
Let's get into our recap roundup.
Recap roundups. Best moment.
My best moment was definitely that B&B conversation, like the moments, but then also like the phone call at the end, kind of I love you. I'm always going to be here for you. Like, let's go to the game. Like, I just thought it was so sweet, and it really did make me so emotional, knowing that like this is probably one of the last like scenes of just them together.
Of the B and the V. My best moment for sure is Betty and Veronica talking more specifically about that, like the mom issues, the fact that they like feel like all the feelings that they feel, and then the almost kiss that we.
And once again, I felt like we got more in this one episode than we probably did in like 6 seasons. Yeah, they covered so much of their relationship and their mom relationships and like their personal things, like in one episode. Like it was a lot, you know?
Like, yeah, it's true. Like they covered sexuality, they covered relationships, they covered boyfriends, like,
parents drama, boyfriends, like so much.
So good.
WTF moment.
What was your WTF moment?
Okay, you go first.
My WTF moment is finding out that Clifford is trying to get Reggie off the team. I just thought it was so extreme. I was like, what the fuck, dude? Like that is a little bit aggressive, like right off the top. Like, it's not his freaking fault that your kid drove himself off a freaking cliff. Like, I didn't know how it was all gonna fit together with this whole like car accident situation, but I was pretty surprised that they took it that way, with Clifford kind of using it as a means to get Reggie out.
My WTF moment is Dilton has the biggest D, because I was so shocked.
Literally gagged.
I was like, really? Like, like you're packing all of that and that's all you're doing? Like, come on, do more.
It's so funny. It's still such a funny high school moment. It's just hilarious.
MVP.
Okay, my MVP is definitely going to go to the teacher just because, like I said, we've never really gone to see, teachers play a pivotal role in in our education and our growth, especially at that time. And they've never shown a good example of a teacher in this show. So I really shout out to the teachers. I'm going to give it to them this week. And she was really good at pushing Archie out of his shell because no one else would have done that. Like everyone else is like, okay, go play basketball, go do sports, go do man things. And she was like, no, like you're good at this. Like keep doing it, Yeah. And then I'll also give it to Mary because we always rip on the parents and like she actually did do her job this week. So
it's like the surprising leader is where are the parents, where are the teachers? It's just Mary and that English teacher. Like they're the only ones that are good at the top.
Yeah.
My MVP is gonna go to Archie because I just feel like he gave me all the good feelings outside of the Betty and Veronica situation. I feel like he was a little feeling his feelings, but I think he was also trying to push things forward. He really tried to rally. He rallied to get Reggie together, and now he wants to pursue writing and poetry. I feel like he had a lot of growth this episode.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm excited to see what they end up doing with his character by the end of it all.
Yeah.
LVP. Who's your LVP?
So my LVP, it's obviously Sheriff Keller. We can't say that anymore because he really is the loser of the season.
He sucks,
but
man.
I would have to say Julian because I felt like he could have done a little bit more with explaining what happened that night, what happened in the accident. Yeah. I really thought and he might still, but I really thought he would wake up and be like, what the fuck did I do? It's all my fault.
Yes.
I need forgiveness. I just kind of expected a little bit more of him. Even though he's been the villain all season, I did want a little bit more of him. So that's why he's my LVP.
I actually 100% agree. I wrote his name down first, actually, as LVP. And then I changed it to Alice because Alice totally sucked this episode, in my opinion. But I was gonna put him down on top of that because I felt like it would have been a good redeeming moment if he showed up to the game and was like, you led our team to championships, mend that relationship with Reggie, and we don't see him as a total shitty villain. You know what I mean? It would have been a good writing opportunity. But to your point, maybe we will get a Julian scene and we will like him a little bit more. Now, maybe once he's better, maybe next episode he'll have that conversation and we'll like him a little bit more. Because still, to your point, what were you doing? So useless. You woke up and you were just making fun of your sister. That's all we got.
The best line.
My best line is obviously Veronica, and she says, you fellas are always in the boys' locker room together. Tell us who's packing the most heat. And then they're like, oh, okay. And then she's like, are you telling us that neither of you has cast an eyeball their way? Because they first denied it, which I did respect, because I was like, you don't tell anyone, keep it in the locker room
talk.
But then she's like, come on, I know you've looked. And they're like, okay,
keep an eye.
I thought that was so funny.
That was really funny. My best line is from Reggie, which we mentioned already, when he says, as far as dreams, I don't have any. I have a plan.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I mentioned why I really like that.
Oh, I loved it.
Really good writing.
Because you can't live in your dreams. You have only a set amount of time. Your back's against the wall. You don't come from privilege. You gotta just have a plan. You gotta do it, and that's it. I really loved it. It was really a great line. Let's do some of our recap roundups from our listeners.
Yes.
We have at Sierra N MVP Mary Andrews, aka best parent on Riverdale. The way she read both Alice and Hermione for absolute filth was everything. Love my lesbian icon. LVP, I don't know. The writers for not focusing on ships that are gonna last till the end. I'm not liking how there is no end game or clear goal in mind, and it's concerning. Best moment, the Archie Reggie scene at the end. Please kiss already.
High five. Best
you
scene.
Guys freaking kill me. Not once did I think they were what?
Well, obviously they're not going to, but you want it to happen as a viewer.
Oh my god. WTF moment. Honestly, the Veronica kiss. Why are we doing this now when we could focus on the lesbian ship that has actual stakes and longevity? Also, Veronica saying it's easier for gay men to date than straight people in the 50s is such a poor taste. Yeah, I think we did touch on that. I do agree, but I think the way she like explained it is understandable. It's not like all encompassing. It doesn't justify.
And
everything.
also, like, she's saying it she's saying it behind the scenes. Like, she's not like exclaiming it to the world. She's kind of just like talking about it. Like you said, like they had a discussion about it, and I did like we said, question where she was going with it, and then it made sense.
Yeah, and like also this is a time when like you're a teenager and like boys are smelly and they're still gross, but like you're still attracted to like, so like even as a teenager, like you haven't flushed out these ideas in your head yet, right?
Their brains are not fully formed.
They're not fully formed. And so she's like, ew, guys, and like how are we supposed to get along with them? And like it's all of these like stupid conversations that you have. But yeah. Then we have at Marina. Overall, it was a good episode, slow for the most part, but in a good way. They took the time to build the relationships between the different characters, and at the same time, the plot moved forward a bit. One of the criticisms is that they continue to put Kevin and Clay aside.
Yeah.
Episode after episode, we see their relationship grow, and it's great, but we never see it on camera. But I thought we got that this week.
We saw them snuggling with each other.
And I like how like Veronica like reflected about them, and she was like, they're so good together. Like, I love how they're like together. Like, I thought that was cute.
But I think but that's the thing. Like, I do agree with that point 100%, because it's already been 12 episodes and we haven't seen one like proper scene where they're like trying to learn about each other or trying to understand each other. It's always like outward context. They aren't the main. But like Tony and Cheryl were also like, they're more main now, but like, I don't know. I just feel like, why throw this character in with this new relationship? You've been focusing on him for the past 7 seasons.
Yeah.
So why now, after all this time of us being so frustrated and annoyed? Like, this was really not that it should only be that, but like this was literally their last opportunity to like redeem Kevin's character and bring a little bit more depth to this real relationship that he's in right now. And I don't know.
If anything, I want more of Clay. I don't want more of Kevin. Like, I wanted more of Clay's backstory, and like that's what it. And like they could have easily done that in that scene talking to the girls, but like they just didn't go there. Yeah, I don't know.
It was a bummer.
Best moment: all the scenes between Archie and Reggie. I can't with these two. This season's Reggie is the best version they could have had to write. Agreed. The scene where Archie gives him the captain's badge from Fred, I died. What WTF moment? Ethel turning into a Cooper and Alice using her to make Betty jealous. WTF, Alice, are you 15 years old? Also, I love B&B friendship this season, but that call and I love you meant something more to me. Wink face. Winky. I want them to explore it once and for all, even if it's 7 seasons too late. Dilton's revelation about his package made me laugh at the reaction, so best moment too. MVP, the teacher. The 2 times she appeared in this season showed how a teacher should be. Being a teacher myself, I had a smile on my face watching this scene. Mary putting Alice and by extension Hermione in their places. Slow clap for both of them. Yeah, shout out to the teachers.
For sure.
LVP, Clifford Blossom, no comment. Best line, let me be abundantly clear, boys. I don't take kindly to threats. This is not a threat, Mr. Mayor, just laying out your options.
Boom.
Oh, getting down to business. We have a new one from at Sweet Tooth Weirdo.
Ooh.
Best moment, Cheryl and Julian sharing that sweet moment in the hospital when Julian woke up. It felt genuine, like they were actually twins / siblings. Unexpected, but welcomed nonetheless. WTF moment, the random musical number done by Betty, Veronica, Clay, and Kevin. Like, Riverdale, stop trying to be Glee, you ain't. MVP, Mary Andrews, the only parent in Riverdale who's actually acting like a responsible, loving, caring 100%. Parent. She gets it done. LVP, Alice, the principal, the guidance counselor, honestly forgot their names and don't really care, and Clifford Blossom. When are they going to realize they suck? The best line, they tell me I'm solid, they pat me on the back, they see me a son, student, team player. They see a boy like any other, but I look in the mirror and there's no one there. Oh my god, I just got chills.
Snaps.
Just smoke and mirrors, and I do not know how to be solid. Oh my god. It's actually
Archie.
Really sad. So I know we've talked about there's this really big scene coming up between Lily and KJ, and like KJ really like cried through it, right? Like he gets really emotional, and I'm wondering if it has something to do with like this, like where he's talking about this like idea of who he is as a man and like how he feels invisible. Like I wonder if it's like that scene that got him to be that emotional. You know?
Yeah, maybe.
Cause like it, you know, especially cause like he went through a lot of stuff this last year. Like he became a dad, and like there's probably a lot of things that are connecting him to his real life, and maybe that like really touched on that.
For sure.
Also, they're saying that like he might have broken up with like the girlfriend.
Oh no.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's like, I don't know if it's confirmed, but like people have been saying that like she like stopped posting anymore. She like took down the photos and like she stopped posting about him.
Oh god.
But like he posts about her, so they're like, what? Clearly something happened.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going on with that, but anyways, we'll see what happens with that scene, because I do want to get to that scene where we know that he gets really emotional, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna check Twitter quickly and see what we have. I don't think we have anything on Twitter yet. No.
Nothing.
Oh wait, sorry, hold on. Can't forget our girl, Mackenzie L. Burns.
Yes.
Best moment, the Bulldogs standing up to Clifford Blossom before the big game and taking a stance on his behavior not being okay. Possibly the bend towards justice beginnings. Veronica's upset face about Betty getting to have kissed Archie when she just last episode said to figure out her love compass for herself. Oh, so like you guys think she got cheese because Betty said she kissed Archie.
So that's what you were saying too, right? Like maybe there is something there.
No, but like I thought Veronica got cheese that Betty kissed Archie because of Archie, not because of the Betty kissing him. Does that make sense? Like, is she like, are you guys saying that she's upset because Betty kissed Archie, or that she's upset that like because she kissed Archie?
Because she has some feelings
for Betty
as well.
Like, is Veronica upset because she likes Betty, or is Veronica upset because she likes Archie?
Right. The love triangle of love triangles. I have no idea. Yeah, no, that's
but what does it mean? I don't know. Plus Clay being a Veggie. That's some rough waters for Clevin. As we know, Kevin is a Barchie shipper. Oh, because Clay was like, oh, you and Reggie were so cute to Betty.
Right. Yeah, that one moment, yeah.
MVP, Cheryl, she well and truly was doing the most this episode. LVP, Veronica, as her admitting she thinks two gay men have it easier than a straight couple in the 50s. Girl, why you gotta be so tone deaf? It's the 50s, for crying out loud. You guys are, I like that you guys are like on that. Yeah.
No, I do appreciate that for sure.
Best line, I don't know. I'm not sure the world's ready for Archie Andrews beatnik poet. Archie, for a brief moment, they were two teenage boys, friends, practically brothers, on the cusp of pursuing very different dreams, unaware that a storm was coming. Jug's ending voiceover. That was good too. Gave me chills. Okay, that's it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I would like to take this time to thank our patrons of the episode, our Rewinder Squad, White, Cliff, Hannah, Julia, and Haley, our Lit Rewinders, Tina, Ann, and Kate, and our Mommy Rewinders, Becca, Sarah.
Thank you, guys. If you would like to join our Patreon family, check us out at patreon.com/recap_rewind.
And also make sure you're checking us out on all of our socials: Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. And you can also find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Like, subscribe, comment, follow, review to stay engaged with us at Recap Rewind.
Loved it.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye. Winky, winky.